He loves that old camera.
Come on, Yang. 1 second.
Don't forget to join us.
I will.
Through the lens of Yang's old camera, a moment of time is cemented into a photograph.
What are you doing? Come on.
Come on, Kuka.
Physical memorabilia, or as a random character calls it,
Memorabilia. Is that how you say it? Memorabilia?
Memorabilia.
for catching us up to remember something we never wanted to forget. What's interesting, though, is how Kogonada captures the scene. With the same aspect ratio and stillness of Yang's own memories, Kogonada creates a connection between Yang and this piece of technology. They are both technology with the capability of capturing moments. But the difference is Yang's humanity, right? I mean, he expresses some sort of emotion when he's talking to the characters later on. Well, this humanity is something Jake and Kyra have never even questioned about Yang, who they originally bought for their adopted daughter to learn about her Chinese heritage. As Kyra mentions early on in the film, her and Jake need to be there for their daughter, Mika, instead of letting Yang raise her.
And not just in raising her, in connecting Mika to our culture and heritage, like that will be on us. So we need to be ready and willing.
Kyra views Yang as a helpful tool for Mika's childhood development, but he doesn't have much importance to her outside this relationship. Jake has a much vaguer relationship with him, avoiding Kyra's questioning of Yang's relationship with Mika.
You're missing the point.
What's the point?
If we can't fix Yang, we're not going to buy another sibling for Mika.
This avoidance seems to stem from a general disconnection that's been growing within him without his knowledge. Colin Farrell's performance perfectly expresses this distance that has been growing between Jake and his life. Jake's tea shop isn't that successful, and his only potential customer is fed up with the shop's lack of tea crystals.
How can you be a tea shop and not carry tea crystals? Oh, how frustrating.
Jake, now feeling distant to his own career, stares into his brewing glass of tea with a meditation only believable through Kogonada's patient direction and editing. Jake has been telling Kyra his shop has been doing well, but the audience is already aware that that's quite the opposite. Jake has been creating this disconnect himself with a subconscious need to make sure everyone thinks he's okay. That despite not accepting aspects of the future like tea crystals or clones,
You don't like clones, right?
he's a successful father for Mika and Kyra. He doesn't really question this about himself until Yang malfunctions and leaves him to pick up the pieces of not only who Yang was, but what he meant to him. Not as an android babysitter, but a son. There's some initial shock when Jake takes Yang to a couple different shops and a museum to get him fixed, like he would a phone or a car.
So what? So there's nothing you can do?
Oh, there's a couple things we can do here. We could have him recycled. I have brothers and sisters. If you do so before he begins to decompose, you'll get $1,000 off on a new model.
Kogonada has created a world far more expansive than what was suggested in Alexander Weinstein's original short story, or even most sci-fi films for that matter. The lives of androids and clones have ultimately become politicized and trivialized with a complete disregard of their experiences. The mechanic Jake is recommended to see is basically a right-wing conspiracy theorist
It's a bunch of corporate bullshit.
who thinks the corporations providing the androids are installing harmful cyberware to stalk the lives of the common people. Even Jake exemplifies the side to this with his negative view of clones. Despite the lives an android like Yang may take on, their very existence is a political idea, straining them from the humanity everyone in After Yang is striving for. Even if this humanity isn't necessarily of human descent. Haley Lou Richardson's character even says,
That's such a human thing to ask, isn't it? We always assume that other beings would want to be human. What's so great about being human?
Kogonada's definition of humanity isn't one strictly applicable to things with flesh and organs, but it's an idea that's held. Yang can't express emotions in the same way Jake can. The only time Yang cries is in Kyra's fallible memory of Yang, which is immediately contrasted with Yang's factual memory. How did Kyra even mistake this in her memory, though? Are our memories even valid with mistakes like this? Jake seems to answer this question in much of how Yang expresses himself within his functionality. During one of the most reinvigorating scenes of, well, really any film, Jake and Yang discuss why Jake even took to tea as a future and why he finds joy in it. Jake has been shown to be pretty lost in his shop without much passion. Jake lights up when Yang asks him. Describing a documentary about tea, Jake describes how inspired he felt about the craft of tea. Yang, seeming genuinely interested despite his limitations in speech, asks him if the journey or the chase is what he likes most about tea. And Jake says,
That's a great part where the man is explaining to his German friend why it's so difficult for him to describe the taste of tea. He says there's no language for it. And his German friend, who's just standing right beside him with a cup of tea, says, "Yes, but I imagine things like you are walking through a forest and there are leaves on the ground and it just had rained and the rain has stopped and it's damp and you walk and somehow that is all in this tea."
In the same way this man found a way to describe the mysterious nature of tea, Yang can use his words as a way to express himself. Kyra may have misremembered Yang's exact physical expression. However, the poetry of his language has allowed him to be remembered this way, the way he wanted to live. This way isn't being human like a lot of these kinds of films focus on. Rather, he can live with emotion as a memory, a melody. Yang meant so much more to Jake, Kyra, and Mika than they realized. They just needed to find a second life within themselves.
I wanna be just like a melody, just like a simple sound I can